And I have two people on the line. First, let me introduce my co-host, the bearded wonder himself, Zane Paisley.
Hello! Glad to be here.
Thanks, Zane. I appreciate you filling in. For those wondering, Rowan is on rotation now. He'll be on every couple of weeks due to work reasons, so we will be having him on when and where we can, but I appreciate Zane stepping in, and he picked a good night to do so because we have a fabulous interview. On the line with us right now is Short Sleeve Sampson. Mr. Sampson, good evening.
Hey, good evening, Steve and Zane. How you guys doing tonight?
We're doing great, and thanks so much for joining us for this interview. You're a 15-year veteran of the business, and it's so many things that we could get into, but I think we just have to start with the start, and I want to know, what is it that got you into pro wrestling as a kid? How did you first fall in love with the sport?
Well, I actually pretty much grew up in the business, in all honesty. My grandfather, my mom's dad, he was actually a midget wrestler back in the 60s. He wrestled under the name of Diamond Jim Brady. So, I was always around wrestling. I always had wrestling, you know what I mean, as far as doing the shows and seeing the guys go to shows and watching it on TV and everything. And anyways, to make a long story short, I didn't follow that career at all, even though I was a huge fan of it. Then what happened was, when I lived in Rhode Island, there was another midget wrestler named Tony the Terrible doing it on the local independent circuit, and through a mutual friend, got a hold of my contact info and asked me if I'd be interested in, doing a wrestling show. So always, being interested in trying anything at least once, and as well as being a fan of it, I did it. Yeah, the sad thing about it is I didn't have any prior training. I'd never been into a wrestling ring before in my life. I guess you could say I was the right size and the right height that they needed for that match, And so anyways, was part of a midget tag match and did it, and it was a great experience, great opportunity. I was definitely not something that was the match. I would say that they got me by because the fact that, like I said, I had never been trained in this business or anything like that. So I appreciate the guys that I worked with because they definitely carried me through because I looked horrible. But anyways, thank the promoter and thank the guy that got me into it, and told them in the future if there's ever anything that came up, let's be a part of it. Well, about a month or so went by, and I got a call to do another wrestling independent show for the same promoter. The only thing different is this one would be singles instead of tag. So fortunately, got through that unscathed, and that was on a Saturday night. The following night, about 10:30 at night, I got a phone call from somebody from WWF at the time, asking me if I'd be interested in doing a segment the following evening on Monday Night Raw out in New Jersey in the Meadowlands. And once I realized it was legit and it wasn't a hoax, said yes, love to be a part of it. And the following evening, I found myself at the very beginning of Raw in the middle of the ring with Triple H, The Big Show, Shane and Stephanie McMahon, along with the guy that got me introduced me into the business, and we're 2 weeks before WrestleMania making fun of The Rock. And basically, long story short, I went home the next day and said, okay, if I'm going to do this business, let me go get trained. Found a really good wrestling school out in Rhode Island, and that's how I got into the business.
And that would be Ali Muhammad and Kyle Storm, right? Is that who you trained with?
That is cool. Yes. Those were the guys that trained me, and I really appreciate it. The nice thing about them, besides the fact of their patience and tolerance working with me, was I remember the very first class I went to, because I started researching and everything and asking people as far as where would be a good school to go to, because I was green. I didn't know anything other than what you see on TV. And I went to their school and sat down and talked with them. And the one thing that they asked me right from the beginning was, how did I want them to train me? And I really didn't understand the question at first. And I said, I want you to train me just like everybody else. And they said, yeah, but do you want us to train you to be a midget wrestler? Do you want us to, modify things for you? What do you exactly, do you want for us to do to help you out in learning this business? And I told them at that time, I want to be trained just like everybody else. I was the only midget wrestler or a little person or whatever you want to call it, being trained at that time with everybody else. And the thing I respect about it is they did it. They did a hell of a job. I definitely owe everything that I have today to those two gentlemen because of the fact that, they basically taught me a lot of what I know now. But the other nice thing about it is that it allowed me to be diversified in how I wrestle and who I wrestle, where I can be able to wrestle another midget wrestler. I can wrestle a big guy. We can do mixed tags. We can do battle royals, royal rumbles, whatever the heck promoter wants to throw in the mix and stuff. And, I think that it's because of that beginning and that foundation that was laid down is why I'm able to do a lot of the things I can do today.
I think that's great. I think you definitely took the right approach with your training and followed through, and it was quite a whirlwind there for you to go from not ever having had a match to being on Raw to going to wrestling school to training to be a full-time wrestler. You got it all accomplished in a very short amount of time.
Oh, definitely. I mean, after my segment on Raw, I could have retired and said I was already a WWE superstar. But no, definitely, I guess you could say right place at the right time, definitely played a huge factor and a role in this whole thing. But at the same time, I wanted to do this business and do it right. And I knew that getting trained right from the beginning was the direction that I had to go. And I appreciate the people that, were placed within my personal circles to be able to accomplish that and help me make that happen.
Yes, indeed. And it was far from your first appearance on WWE television. You've been on many times in the recent years that have followed. In fact, you were just recently featured on the TLC pay-per-view. So maybe you could talk to us a little bit about that experience.
Oh, are you kidding me? It was great. It was awesome. It was a great time, especially to obviously be, imitating Jerry Lawler as Jerry Smaller and everything. But to this time, instead of being in the ring, to be doing colored commentating for the WLC match for Hornswoggle and Torito, it was a lot of fun. It really was, and I appreciate having the opportunity as well as challenging myself because I had never done any commentating before. And it's a different approach, and like I said, it was a great time.
Did you know the other guys that were on commentary with you, or did they just throw you all together at the last second?
No. Actually, everybody that you saw that was involved in that segment, other than Hornswoggle and Torito, are actually people that I personally know. And what happened was the Tuesday before the pay-per-view, WWE had contacted me and told me what they were doing, asked me if I was interested. And once I told them I was, they had asked me if I would be able to get a few other guys to play the roles that they played. And so I had contacted people that I know within the business. And it was fun because all those guys are great guys. They're true professionals. So I think it just made it even that much more fun, that not just beside the fact of being able to be a part of that and to be working back for WWE again, but as well as to be working alongside people that, I enjoy in this business.
Well, that's very cool. They booked the whole match. They booked the whole segment through you, basically, then. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great time. I'm really blessed and humbled by the opportunity to be able to do that, as well as help them out and so that they had that type of confidence and faith in me to be able to, get the job done and everybody be happy at the end of the day.
Well, speaking of faith and confidence, I don't want to take all the shine here during this interview, so I'm kicking it over to a man I have total faith and confidence in, the Bearded Wonder, Zane Paisley. Please feel free to ask some questions.
Well, that's scary that you have that much confidence in me. You brought up the WLC. You brought up the WLC match. That was the best match of the night, in my opinion. Those guys were working harder and doing spots that we haven't seen in years. What was your thoughts on the match? It must be hard to try to do commentary while it's going on. So when you play it back, what did you think of the match?
Oh, I honestly, I thought that the match should have been part of the pay-per-view itself and not just, a teaser and stuff, before the pay-per-view even started. Hornswoggle and Torito, as well as the other guys that, work alongside them that were involved in that match. Everything, I thought from start to finish was solid. And it was great to see that both those guys went out there and they just gave 110%. I mean, the wrestling was there, the entertainment value was there. It definitely did a TLC style match a lot of justice, and it wasn't just all comedy and stupidity as we've seen before in the past when certain things like that would happen with other guys.
I totally agree. And they must have spent a small fortune on the gimmicks that they used in there, the mini tables and everything. Everything was to scale, and I thought that was awesome.
They definitely, went 100%, and they spared no expense. I mean, even our announce table that we had, it was phenomenal. I mean, to have something just miniaturized from the real deal and stuff. And obviously, again, to be a part of all that, it was awesome. It really, really was. But yeah, they definitely spared no expense and was top quality from start to finish.
Now, in our pre-show, Stevie asked you what you prefer, what term you prefer, if you like midget wrestling or minis. Can you let our listeners in on your thoughts on that?
That is a question I am asked so often, and it's funny because of the fact that in the society and the world that we live in today, everybody tries to be politically correct. And when it comes to me or this business that I'm a part of as far as my involvement in it, it is midget wrestling. That's what it is, okay? I happen to be a midget wrestler in this business. I mean, this has nothing to do with politically correct. Heck, wrestling is a circus. It's a circus sideshow. That's what it is. And we're all characters that make up this industry. And because of our diversity, that's what keeps this industry so interesting for everybody. To call it anything different, I think you would confuse people and you would lose what you were really trying to accomplish. There are other companies that use the word micro in their title, or they may have micro wrestlers. WWE about 8 years ago tried to create what they called the juniors division, which was their version of a midget wrestling promotion, which I happen to be a part of as well. But at the end of the day, it's midget wrestling, man. And I mean, I say this a lot because hopefully try to get the point across. I mean, can you picture being at a wrestling show and you have the ring announcer getting ready to announce the next match, and he announces to the fans, okay, we're ready for, our special attraction or our main event. We're going to have vertically challenged wrestlers.
Yeah, that would fly.
Nobody's going to know what the heck is going to come out of that curtain. Or the other, we'll sit there and say, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have little people wrestling. They're going to expect to see 5-year-olds come to the ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah, vertically challenged could mean anything too. It could mean like Shaquille O'Neal's coming out to wrestle. You don't know what vertical means.
Yeah, I mean, we could have Big Show coming to the ring. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it could mean anything whatsoever. So, no, it's midget wrestling.
Yes, indeed. But then why did MCW choose micro championship wrestling as opposed to midget championship wrestling? What was the idea there?
I think basically the thing is that to get the point across, but at the same time to try to be a little bit more politically correct, to try to offend a few less people, especially when you have the organization like the LPA, Little People of America, who find the word midget to be just as offensive as a black person would find the N-word to be offensive. Again, am I personally, in my own personal life, a midget? No, I'm not. I happen to be a dwarf, completely different. But when it comes to this business, I am a part of this business through a character that I portray, and that character happens to be a midget wrestler. Fair
enough. And on that very note, since I already opened the door to MCW, I found that show to be curious in that I thought some of the segments were incredibly scripted, and I thought some of them were incredibly genuine. And I suppose that's much like wrestling itself, that you're never quite supposed to know which is which. But given that it was branded as reality television, I wonder what your take is on it, having had a chance to watch it back yourself.
We don't script anything. Come on, bro. Really? No. This is 100% legit and honest, pure reality TV from the point we woke up to the point the cameras went off at night. Honestly, as far as to be a part of that, like you mentioned, the Hulk Hogan's Micro Championship Wrestling show, first of all, I was actually really excited to be a part of it. I was excited about the role I played in it, and I felt that the show, the way the production of the show was, I felt it was good, but I definitely knew that it could have been a whole lot better than what it was. We've gotten a lot of positive support and feedback from it, and people obviously wanting to see it continue and to evolve into a season 2 and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, the production company in some way, shape, or form did not want to follow through on it. But what I would have loved to have seen more is I would have loved to have seen more wrestling on it, because here was an opportunity for us to, be able to have our very own show, having Hulk Hogan as, the head of it all, which you couldn't ask for a bigger name to head it up in this whole industry, And if anything, the name Hulk Hogan is definitely synonymous with what wrestling is today in many, many ways. So that's one thing I would have seen. I would have liked to have seen and everything. But it was amazing, too, because of the fact that we had shot so much footage that never aired on television. I mean, if anything, the stuff that you saw on TV was maybe, less than 20% of the footage that we actually shot. And there was so many things that sat on the editing floor that never went into TV or never even went to a behind the scenes reel DVD or a blooper DVD or whatever you want to, format it as. So if, to have been a part of the show and to have, seen everything being filmed and to know the scenes and to know what was taped and everything like that, we could have doubled the weeks and you still would not have seen everything that was shot.
That's fair. In fact, I hope they do release a DVD of behind-the-scenes footage and extra matches at some point. I mean, it's been a couple of years now. I think they could go ahead and roll that out and reinvigorate people to want to check out the show and find out what it was about if they put all that extra footage on a DVD set.
I agree. But, really what it comes down to is you had Eric Bischoff and Jason Hervey's production company. They were the ones that were heading that up and working alongside True TV. So it's between the two companies right there that would have to, make something happen at that point.
Right. So how much interaction did you have with Hulk Hogan off camera? How much time did you spend talking to him, working with him and whatnot?
In all honesty, we were so busy, all of us, that the only time that you finally had to yourself was early in the morning getting ready to, start filming, or after, we were done filming. And we were filming a lot. Most of the days we were filming were 12-hour days. So we really didn't have a whole lot of personal interaction with everybody. I mean, you'd have a few minutes, whether it's, to talk to Hulk or to talk to each other or stuff like that. But otherwise, it was, standing on the wings. No different than a wrestling show. You're in the back and you're preparing for your match and everything, and you're waiting until it's go time. And then after it's done being go time, there's always something else to be done, whether it's, meeting fans and, doing autographs and pictures or something. And to film that show, it was the same way. It was, full steam forward. And when you weren't in the main scene, well, then the production producer and the director or whatever was pulling you aside for candid interviews and OTFs and other things. So they definitely kept us all really, really busy.
Fair enough. And with that, I'm turning it back over to Zane because I believe he has another question.
Well,
Zane, he tagged you in, bro. He tagged you in. This is a hot tag.
It's a hot tag. It's a hot tag. I did want to go back to, you had mentioned working with WWE earlier. You'd mentioned Vince McMahon, Big Show, The Rock. We've all seen your interaction with JBL and The Undertaker, and I just, that was very memorable. You know, how many different characters have you parodied on WWF or WWE television?
Oh, that's a good question. I've actually been fortunate enough to portray several. Like you mentioned, I did The Undertaker, working with Undertaker and JBL. I was also Mini Kurt Angle, working with Kurt Angle and John Cena. I was part of the Mini Spirit Squad. I did a mixed tag with the Hot Throbs, where I came out as Pocket Rocket, working with Big Viscera, Big Daddy V, and his parody likeness of himself. Let me see. I was Hornswoggle's attorney. Recently,
were you in
obviously.
In the Little People's Court under the ring thing?
Yes.
Oh man, that is awesome.
Yes. So I was part of that. Let me see. The WLC match. Oh my goodness, I'm giving a resume here, and I'm trying. I know I'm leaving like something out, but yeah. I mean, I've had several opportunities to portray a lot of the different superstars.
So is that a situation where Johnny Ace will call you up and say, hey, we need you for this show. Can you make it?
Usually it's whoever's working for him at that time. I got to say that I owe, in all honesty, a good 80% of my WWE opportunities to Dr. Tom Pritchard, because of the fact that he was definitely the one who was giving me the biggest pushes in the company to do, anything and everything possible. And anytime WWE had something where they could have used me for, he was the one that was contacting me. And then later on, whether it was Tommy Dreamer or Nova, and then obviously now they have, I believe Amanda's in the office now working with Johnny Ace. So it was always whoever was working under him.
Well, I just had the opportunity to interview Dr. Tom Pritchard last Tuesday on the Undisputed Wrestling Show. Man, that guy is so nice, so with it. Can't think of a better guy to be able to work with.
Dr. Tom is awesome. I mean, best way to put it. I mean, he is such a humble guy. He knows the business. He eats, sleeps, breathes wrestling from the point he wakes up to the point he goes to bed at night. He's a plethora of knowledge when it comes to trying to pick his brain about the business. And he really, really is. And like I said, I mean, I honestly, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I would have never been able to have the majority of the opportunities that I've had to work for the company if it wasn't for him. So I owe a lot of my career to him. Well,
and then you've portrayed different people in TNA. How did you get hooked up with them?
TNA, basically what happened was I was on an indie show and working with Jeff Jarrett. And after Jeff had a chance to see my match, where I actually happened to be working a big guy on that match, we switched contact info, and a couple of weeks later, I found myself in part of the Bound for Glory Kevin Nash Invitational Battle Royal for the X Division. So that was my first opportunity working with them. And then I think a year or so later, they brought me down to Universal Studios, where they had me part of their Christmas special, where I was imitating Motor City Machine Guns and everything. And the company, every time that, the few times I worked for them and everything, they were great. They were super at everything and always gave me a huge push. I like the fact of when I was part of the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, I was able to be Short Sleeve Sampson. I was able to be my own character and not portray, one of their other guys. So that was a real nice opportunity.
That's a good question, actually. Do you feel that people maybe have overlooked you in some respects because you've done so many impersonations of so many wrestlers that you've not been able to get out your own character as much as you'd like?
That's a really good question. At first, I think when I first started doing it, I really didn't care because it was, okay, at least I was on TV. And then as the parodies started keep on coming through, I was actually getting really excited about it because the fact that it showed that they trusted me to be able to imitate all these different personas, because every persona that I was able to imitate was completely different from the other one, So it obviously showed that, what I was able to do and capable to do. There was, I was hoping at some point in time, at least to be on WWE television at least once as my own character. And when we did the juniors division, they allowed me to come on as short sleeve Sampson. So I've been able to accomplish, the best of both worlds.
Very cool. Now, going back to MCW, I know that you mentioned in the pre-show before we started that time has come and gone and you're no longer involved with Micro Championship Wrestling. So could you explain to our listeners how that partnership came to an end?
No bad ill or anything like that. I think Johnny G, who runs MCW, is he's a great guy, and he's trying very hard to get the product out there and to make it as successful as possible. Basically, all it really came down to was I chose to go into a different direction than what they were going, because of the fact that with me announcing my retirement from the business and to be able to do my retirement tour, I was not able to do that as being part of Micro Championship Wrestling. So, there's no bad blood there. Everything is, good in a professional way and stuff. And, we still, Johnny and I will still chat, from time to time and everything like that. And I know that they have a lot of things going on, which is great. And I support them in that, as well as, I always know that I always get the support with the things I've been doing too. So, like I said, that's it. It was a nice transition. It was a good transition.
Very good. And transition is what you're all about right now, because believe you've been on retirement tour for a while. And you know what they say about wrestling retirements? Terry Funk came back like 10 times. But I assume this is a legit retirement for you.
I've been asked that same question so many times. No, this is legitimately my plan. This is not a work or some type of promotional stunt in any type of way. And I've been trying to stay true to everything by posting on my website and all my different social medias as far as shows I have coming up, as well as shows I've already done with countdowns and everything. The farewell tour is a 40-show tour, and I'm being very selective in where I work because of the fact that there have been so many promoters out there that have supported me throughout the years, which I am so appreciative, as well as the fans that support me and continue to support me. And if it wasn't for them, none of us would be able to, first of all, have this a job in this business, in this industry, as well as none of us would have a show to work on and, a ring to work in and a crowd to work in front of and stuff like that. And I really wanted to leave the right way by showing the thanks and the appreciation to the promoters and to the fans that have supported me throughout the years. So at this point, it looks like my tour will be ending at the latter part of this year. And, 40 shows is 40 shows.
Very cool. Now, you mentioned you've done mixed tags and all sorts of gimmick matches. Have you ever done a trios match, like a Chikara King of Trios type match?
I have. I have. And to do that is definitely a lot more work behind it, and it's a little bit different than your normal match or tag match or something like that. But again, it's just a great opportunity to be able to take the abilities and the talents and the gifts that we've been given to be able to put them together, working with other guys in an industry where it's really, really tough, and to pull it all together and entertain the fans so that at the end of the night, they're leaving wanting more. And, it's awesome.
I think I'm fantasy booking a little by asking that question, because before the 40 show tour ends, I'd love it if you showed up at the King of Trios, but I don't know if you've had any contact with them to do that or not. So
No, I haven't. But hey, I mean, if they want to, do something with me, I'd definitely be interested in putting something together. So that'd be phenomenal.
All right. Well, Mike Quackenbush, if you're listening, give Short Sleeve Sampson a call and make it happen.
Yes, Mike. Come on. You're just 4 hours away from me, bro.
Absolutely. And now back to Zane Paisley, the Bearded Wonder. Zane, go ahead.
Well, I did see on your Facebook page some of your photos, and you did a match recently with Andrea the Giant. I would love to see that. That would be awesome.
Oh, let me tell you, there was a match that we had up in Vegas recently at the Cauliflower Alley Convention, and it was Team USA versus Team Canada. And Andrea the Giant was actually one of the members of my tag team and everything. And it was just great. It was awesome because of the fact that you had the shortest guy in all of the wrestling convention mixed with the tallest girl of all of the convention, as well as all the other great athletes that were part of our match and everything. And also, it was truly an international match because everybody on my team was truly from the U.S. Everyone on Team Canada was truly from Canada. So it was great. It was a lot of fun. And to work with her as well as all the other talent and to be a part of that, I mean, you couldn't write a better script.
Well, and what was the award that you got from the Cauliflower Alley Club?
I was actually awarded this year the Active Men's Wrestling Award, which honestly, I mean, even right now, I find it to be such a huge honor. And, the thing that echoes so much for myself personally is the fact that I wasn't awarded a midget wrestling award, but I was awarded the Men's Wrestling Award. And the one thing that I really hoped to accomplish while being in this business was I didn't want to necessarily just be known as another midget wrestler, but I wanted to have a career where I would be known as a wrestler who happens to be a midget. And to have received that award and be nominated for that award, it definitely made me feel like I made that accomplishment.
That is amazing. Who presented the award to you?
I had J.J. Dillon and Terry Funk were the MCs of the evening, and I had Vern May, Vance Nevada from Canada, up in, I think that's Saskatchewan or whatever like that, who happens to be very knowledgeable about this business, a good personal friend of mine, as well as he's just a plethora of knowledge when it comes to wrestling itself. And I was actually honored that he was the one that, presented me for that award.
Vance has written a few books about pro wrestling, has he not?
Yes, he has. He definitely has. And I know that his very first book, he has included me in it. I actually have it sitting right here with all my stuff, and it's a huge honor to be a part of that. But he really is. I mean, he's a student of this business. He takes the time and he studies it inside and out, especially to make sure he has all of his facts and all of his material, true to what it's supposed to be. And yeah, I could really wish to have the type of knowledge about this business that he has.
Well, you're giving me a good endorsement to read his book then, but go ahead, Zane.
Well, I was just going to say, you mentioned J.J. Dillon. Today is actually his 72nd birthday.
That's right.
I am staring at a picture of J.J. Dillon with the Four Horsemen, so that is very cool that you got to interact with him. Who were some of the other people that you had met maybe for the first time at that event?
Let me just tell you, you had Terry Taylor, who was awarded at the event. Jim Ross was there. Already mentioned as far as Terry Funk and J.J. Dillon. I'm trying to think, oh my goodness, there were so many names, so many superstars that were there. Frankie Kazarian and his tag partner were there. Tracy Brooks was there. Oh my goodness. If I had a list in front of me, it'd be a whole lot more helpful trying to do this all verbatim. But yeah, I'm sorry, brain fart right now, man, and I know I'm missing it. Getting so many important names right now.
Well, they
But
have so many legends there. What was that? I don't want to speak for you, but if I were in your position, I would think that would probably be one of the highlights of my professional career. Would you say that that's a fair statement?
oh my goodness, bro, that's beyond a fair statement. It's beyond a fair statement. When I found out that I was actually chosen and selected to receive this award through a phone call that was made to me, as soon as I hung up the phone, I'm not going to lie, I broke down and cried. I cried like a baby because of the fact that the one thing that separates the Cauliflower Alley convention from anything else is that it umbrellas all of wrestling. It's not sponsored by one promotion or one federation or one company. It's not run by Vince. It's not run by Dixie Carter. It's not run by NWA, or any of those companies. But it encompasses and involves all of those companies. So to have this nomination and to receive this award, you couldn't get any better than this, in all honesty. And the representation there, and even in preparing and making the speech and everything like that, it's like, okay, what do you say to people that you idolize, to people that you've looked up to people that, you emulate or, want to learn from? And, it's just so humbling. It's so humbling. And yes, I mean, it's definitely the best thing that could have ever happened in my career, and I will cherish it and hold on to it dearly for the rest of my life.
Well, aren't you happy that you got it this year? Because next year you would have been a retired wrestler, so you wouldn't have been able to get the active wrestler. I'm on your website, which is www.shortsleevesampson.com. It's got a list of your farewell tour dates. It looks like after tonight you're might be taking some time off. Then you're hitting Canada for a while, and then it looks like you're in Sturgis for a week. Is that going to be a wild and crazy time up in Canada and then Sturgis?
Oh yes, actually, whatchamacallit, I do have to change one of the dates. July 12th, I won't be in Pennsylvania. I'll actually be in Doane, Alabama. That's been a change in promotions and stuff. But yes, I'm taking this next 2 weeks off and everything for 4th of July, as well as some family things that I have to do and everything. But yeah, got a huge 10-show tour up in Manitoba, working for Danny Warren and CWE, and then after that, going to Sturgis. Sturgis is a great time. Sturgis actually is when I leave the wrestling boots home, and instead of being in a wrestling ring, I get all lubed up, oiled up, and we do this thing out there called midget bowling.
Can you please explain that?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Can you please explain the rules of midget bowling?
Oh, yes. Midget bowling, we have this apparatus that is basically a modified slip and slide that has the look and the appearance of a bowling alley. And, it's the only place that I'll ever do this. And I've been doing this now. I think this will be the 5th year I've been doing this out in Sturgis. And basically, we get the thing all oiled up, lubed up, and people come and they get a chance to not throw me, but push me down, and in an attempt to try to, get all the pins down, get a strike, which is the theme that we use for what we do. And it's just a fun time and a great time. It's the biggest party probably in all the world, and it's down to Buffalo Chip for the big annual Sturgis Bike Rally. And the cool thing about it is that there's been some great music celebrities that have participated in this thing with me over the years. From Hinder, Sweet Cyanide, Toby Keith has had his crew out there doing it. Last year, oh my goodness, freaking brain farts, too many chair shots to the head. Anyways, I'll come back to the names in a second. I'm trying to think, oh my goodness. Half the pictures are actually on all my social media and everything like that. But I've had, honestly, probably the biggest names in music taking a part of this as well. Zach Brown Band a couple of years ago, him and his crew did it, which actually caught the attention of TMZ and put me on TMZ for a few weeks. As far as they put me on their live TV show as well as their internet and everything like that. So it's just been great.
Maybe it's too many bowling pins to the head.
I don't know. It could be, bro. You never know.
Well, I just have a couple more questions, and I'll let Zane get in the last one after me if he has any more. But one of our listeners noticed that you have a very defined accent. So she wanted me to ask you if you've ever had the chance to portray like a mob character in wrestling.
No, not yet. Have I had a chance to portray a mob character? It's an East Coast accent. It's where I was born and raised. So I was born and raised in Rhode Island. So I got a portion of Rhode Island and Boston, and now I live up in New York. So I think it's all mixed in together. And then spend a couple of weeks in Canada. I'll be going and so. It's definitely, a mixed thing. But no, I haven't. But given the opportunity, I would definitely love to do that.
Very cool. Now, we haven't had a chance to talk about this before now, so I think this will be my high spot, and then I'll tag over to Zane. You're married and you have a daughter, and I want to know, now that you're retiring from the business, how has that time being a wrestler been for them, and how are they feeling now that it's coming to an end?
My wife and my daughter have been the biggest supporters that I could even hope to have in my personal life as well as my career. If anything, my wife's been trying to encourage me to retire for a few years now and everything. So, but they're both super supportive. And the thing is that I'm getting ready to retire from this business, but I'm not retiring from entertainment. But the whole purpose of me retiring is to transition into more mainstream acting, being TV and film and everything. So, and with the two different industries, the schedules completely conflict with each other, and it's just impossible to do that. So that's the other reason of me doing the retirement and everything. But at the end of the day, I mean, honestly, I couldn't be able to do the things I do in this business, to do all the traveling, to make all the sacrifices and missing birthdays and anniversaries and holidays and to be gone, anywhere from a couple of days to, 2 months, 3 months at a time and everything, if it wasn't from the support of my wife and daughter.
Well, I think I speak for myself as well, and Zane, when I say that without our wives, we couldn't do the things that we do. They are very trooper when it comes to us doing all this wrestling stuff, whether it's interviews or shows or podcasts or traveling. So, Zane, you get the last question. Go ahead.
Well, were you able to sneak in your catchphrase, "It's midget time," during the WeLC match?
No, unfortunately, I was not. We were earlier on in the day when we were, rehearsing everything and all. We were joking around a lot and using a lot of midget references, and we were asked at that time to, not use the word midget or any references like that in our commentating. So we basically stayed away from it.
Well, and I don't know if you really want to talk about this that much, but since you talked about the rehearsals,
Bring it on, bro. Bring it on. I would love to talk about this.
Well, no, I think it was, I know it was an honest mistake and that other superstars in WWE have done that too. Did you catch a lot of heat from that, or was it just overblown?
Okay, let's give the background here. Basically, what we're talking about is throughout the day, I had, taken some pictures, which I was pretty excited because of all the different opportunities I've had to work for WWE or even TNA. I've never taken any pictures, and this being probably, my last opportunity to work for the company, I wanted some memories. And in one of the shots where I'm sitting behind the commentating announce booth, far and behind me, sitting out in the stands, you see John Cena talking to the Wyatts and everything. Okay, So that's the background. Now this is what happened, and this is the whole thing. So taking pictures throughout the day. We did our segment that was the introduction to the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. After we were all done and all, I went back into the locker room and I uploaded the pictures that I had taken. Now I'm looking at these pictures, first of all, on my Samsung Galaxy 4S phone, which happens to have a 5-inch screen. And I was more worried about making sure that they weren't blurry, and that was it. And I posted them up, and then obviously started getting, feedback and comments and likes and everything from them that was going to my phone. About an hour after I posted those pics up, a fan had commented saying, if I was WWE, I would fire Short Sleeve Sampson right now.
Wow.
Ooh.
So I immediately, clicked on that, and it pulled up that picture. And I saw that they shared that picture on their wall. I deleted it right then and there. So for the rest of the night, for the rest of the pay-per-view, I kept on going on my Facebook and everything just to make sure there was no other references, or that picture didn't exist or anything like that. The next morning, I woke up and everything before leaving my hotel, and I had checked the internet, and there was nothing. And then a couple hours later, all of a sudden, I saw that there was somebody who had saved the picture. They posted it up on their social media, and then from there, it completely went viral.
Mm-hmm.
So the stories that went around as far as the fact of WWE having heat with me, or them asking me to take the picture down and everything, the picture was down and off my social media before those guys even had their match in the pay-per-view. I've talked with WWE a few different times after that. They have not made any mention of it. I was just up at the Cauliflower Alley Club, where you have the top names in the business that work for WWE. Nothing was mentioned of it. So there is no heat. They never asked me to take something down because it wasn't even up. So how can I take something down that's not even up?
Well, hey, that makes sense to me, So I wanted to plug again your website, shortsleevesamson.com. You have an awesome T-shirt on there for your it's Midget Time Farewell Tour. And you also have 8x10s that you can order from you. I was very excited to talk with you, and I can't wait. I hope that you come to the Midwest, because I'm an Indianapolis guy, and I would love to see you around here.
Well, I first of all, I want to appreciate you guys taking the time and having me on your show and everything. I really appreciate that. And I would love to. I know that a lot of my tour is still going on. Obviously, there's still a few open dates that I have, and a few dates I have not plugged yet for my social media. And as soon as everything gets solidified between myself and the promoters, then I'll be adding those dates to it and everything. But I would really hope that I would be stopping someplace in Indianapolis and everything, and it would be an honor to personally be able to meet you, shake your hand, and say thank you.
And you're not going to punch me in the face?
Oh, no, I may punch you someplace else. So let me tell you.
And can you do us one quick favor? Could you give us your catchphrase so that way we can put it on loop for it?
Sure. It's Midget Time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Sampson. And one more time, Zane already plugged half the stuff that I would have asked you to plug, but I appreciate him for doing that. That's why he's the bearded
He's a
wonder.
superstar.
Yes, indeed. But anything else that you want to plug social media-wise that Zane hasn't already?
I appreciate it. Obviously the website, www.shortsleevesamson.com. You can follow me on Facebook. My personal one is Short Sleeve Sampson, and I have a fan page, which is official Short Sleeve Sampson. I'm also on Twitter, which is AWE Sampson or Sampson. I have an Instagram that I don't use, and I think that's also Short Sleeve Sampson. Definitely. And I obviously control these. I am on them myself and personally. So if fans want to message me or comment or anything like that, I do reply back to all my comments and messages. Sometimes it takes me a few days. Sometimes I'm able to do it right away. But ultimately, I appreciate the fans. I appreciate the promoters. I appreciate you, Steve, and Zane and everything for taking the time and interviewing me and having me on your show and everything. And I just want to say thank you.
Well, and we thank you right back. We appreciate you being willing to come on the show tonight, and best of luck in the retirement tour as it continues to go forward, and continued success with your family and your personal life going forward.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. You have a great night, and maybe we'll be talking to you after the retirement tour when you land a big movie. What do you say?
Sounds great. Sounds great. I'd love to do a follow-up. So you guys have been true professionals, and I appreciate it. So, yes, let's do a midget time too at some point.
Sounds perfect. Thank you again, and have a great night.